What's going on, everybody? I thought I'd make another video that was geared towards beginners, or at the very least kind of provide you guys with another beginner's perspective. I think it'll help a number of people out who are either new to the channel or people just getting used to the machine, older, younger, whatever. And so what I did was I'm using my brother-in-law who is visiting in town with my younger sister, and I thought it'd be interesting to see, someone who's never used a total gym or a sliding bench trainer. He is familiar with seeing them on like infomercials. He was kind of skeptical about even using them in the first place. And I thought it'd be interesting to see if we just took the total gym wall chart, how intuitive is it to look at these total gym pictures or initial pictures that you kind of see maybe in an infomercial, whatever, like a video, and then trying to translate it onto the machine for the first time. So I think there's a number of things we could talk about, and I learned a lot actually sitting down here for about 40 or 60 minutes messing around with the machine with him. That was kind of good to know. But a lot of the stuff was just a lot of similar comments that I've been getting from a lot of you guys, and a little more sympathetic again to some of the questions and concerns I kind of continue to get. So hopefully I can address some of those in this video. Now, his background is pretty similar to a lot of people. I don't know about a lot of people, but one thing, he is a younger person, so this stuff should come a little bit easier to him versus someone who's older, or maybe has like a disability or something like that. Again, I'm just kind of showing him the picture here so he can kind of reference it and do it in his own. But he works like 6 to 7 days a week sometimes. He works like a lot of shift work, so he's working hard. He doesn't have a whole lot of time to exercise. He used to go to the gym a lot, but then kind of fell away from it. So something like this would kind of benefit him. But as you can see, he's just trying to replicate what he saw in the picture, and he's saying to me, this just feels kind of weird. I don't really feel like I'm working my chest. I feel like I'm working my arms. So again, I talk about some things we discussed in this channel. I made a bunch of many videos about this, but pressing to the chest line, working that range of motion, different positions and angles you can kind of sit at to engage your chest, different ways to kind of hold the grip, even the way he's kind of seated. We talked about this in a few videos of mine on this channel a number of different times, even the workout videos. But that alone, I think, was tough to him, just to kind of find that good spot to sit at. Later on, you'll see us go on the knees, and I had more respect for the idea that that's not as easy as it seems, especially for someone like this who's still kind of younger. The next exercise was just a simple pullover. I tried to pick really simple exercises on that wall chart, simple but also a foundational exercise that we'd likely use a lot. I was debating about actually adding his audio in. It just, for the sake of time, it'd be easier to kind of do a talk over. But he was asking a lot of questions that I edited out. Like I said, we were down here for about like 60 minutes. And we were just talking about really common questions like rep ranges, how effective is this, what type of results can you expect to get. A lot of stuff that everyone asks on this channel consistently, which again just shows me there's a need for this in total gym. Because I think if most people tried these exercises out for the first time, you ate at a gym or you bought it, you might have some buyer's remorse now in retrospect. Because I think without a whole lot of instruction, or at least some instruction, I'm not saying from like watching my videos, whatever, but at the very least giving it some time, if you're a total beginner, you might throw this thing away and feel like it's not doing anything. So here's just a simple pullover. He's doing what he saw in that picture again, and you can see as he's doing it, he's kind of more like bending his elbows. He's not really opening up his shoulders and really thinking about engaging his lats. He was still kind of confused on what he was still kind of working in the first place. So even someone who's, I don't know if he's ever done like a dumbbell pullover, but he's definitely did a lot of bench pressing and like rowing and traditional weight stuff in the gym, which we were talking off the camera about that a lot. But anyways, the point was, you can see here that just it needed a little bit of instruction, even for something very simple, which is just taking your arm up and then pulling your arm down with your lats. And it's a common thing too. Even once he got the form down, he was saying like, well, I'm feeling it in like my chest and other spots. And that's a common question people say, that they're doing something that's supposed to be working a particular muscle, but they're not quite feeling it there. And some of that just kind of comes with time. Especially here. So now this is another basic simple exercise. He saw the picture of the seated row, and he's going to go ahead and pull. And I find this way of pulling really common across the board, even in the gym. But people will sit kind of more of a rounded back, and their body doesn't really know any better. They think just path of least resistance. So as he's pulling, he's really kind of using, his shoulders are protracted. He's using some shoulders as well, but he's definitely kind of using some biceps. And that's what he was kind of saying here. He's basically telling me, I'm not really feeling this in my back. It feels kind of awkward. Right there, you can see he's like, can I be honest? I'm, not really feeling it here. That's basically what he was telling me. So eventually I jump in, do the same thing. And this is a common thing. This isn't, in my opinion, not really intuitive. And over time, yeah, sure, you could figure this out with some, time and trial and error. But that's where hopefully these videos can kind of help you guys and save you guys some trial and error. This is where I want him to sit, a little more upright. And I eventually coach him about, he's telling me actually he was feeling it in his triceps, and really you shouldn't be feeling it too much in your triceps because we're really flexing the elbow. It should be a biceps if anything. But I was showing him, if you sit kind of, bent over, not using your back and not opening up your chest, you don't get any movement in that middle back. You don't really work your muscles like your rhomboids and your traps as much. And so that's what I was kind of telling, a couple little cues like, retracting your shoulders, opening your chest up, but also actively thinking about, your lats, rhomboids, and traps, but ultimately just avoiding this kind of hunched over, row where you're just using your arms. And so again, the kind of cueing is back there. So that'll take some time. You can see I started messing with the grip. I show him the cross grip a little bit so you can kind of get, again, a little more of a stretch and more of a pull, a little more range of motion in your back. And throughout this, again, I'm kind of editing this, but he's asking all the questions. Honestly, they were so dead on. I was debating about including him, but he's asking all the questions that you guys asked me about, rep range, how effective this is. Do I really use this equipment? That was the other question he was asking me. So here's him just doing a simple pull up, and even this, that's really simple and more intuitive than anything else that we're gonna do. He was saying he kind of felt like one side was working more than another, and I've heard that just across, people say that in a variety of exercises, but that's a common concern as well, that'll come with time as well. But even this, you can see how his elbows want to point down. They don't really want to track on the side of his body or isolate his lats. Again, they're kind of using path of least resistance, and I kind of said, it would probably make sense to lower this a little bit and work at a lower range of motion, so you can kind of work on just feeling the reps and not feeling you have to work at a higher rep range. We're doing bicep curls here. So again, he looked at a picture in the book and is trying to replicate it. And this is a common thing. And notice that as he's kind of doing that curl, not just his elbows, but he started kind of moving his shoulders too. So he's kind of helping out with his shoulders, not just to help himself get out of that row, but also because it just feels a little bit different and odd. What I was trying to tell him is basically, as much as you could have your elbow kind of pinned at your side, but just focus on just your elbow as what's flexing and then what's extending. Right there, he was just saying he started feeling that tension in his back, and that kind of makes sense too, because he was almost kind of like rowing and curling. That's kind of what I'm showing what he was doing. And I'll tell him again, sit up nice and tall, pin your shoulder blades back, and just think about your elbow as what's flexing. That's easier said than done. And again, it depends on the apparatus, but also it's pretty high. You'll see me lower this tower too, because in my opinion, this is a little bit too high for him. So his body kind of had to cheat a little bit. So then I kind of lowered the tower, and that was a little bit better, and kind of having him more isolate his elbows is what's flexing and extending, and not using his arms as much. But again, you can see you could probably retract a little bit more in the shoulders, not kind of point forward. And then eventually I showed him this, this angle to see how he would do with this. I talked about different lines of action, how I kind of like to lean into it, so my elbows or my biceps kind of have an extension of the cables. And I didn't show it on video, I edited it out, but he wiped out a bunch of times in this position. We finally kind of got him in a position where he was kind of at least somewhat stable. And even this, just felt too awkward and weird. He didn't feel comfortable getting at that angle. Again, it's another wake-up call for me that I know stuff that I do that seems pretty easy. It would come easy to him eventually, but I know it's not as easy for most people to kind of get in that kneeling position, especially if you're older or you have injuries like knees or whatever. So then I said, here's a really simple way of doing a bicep curl upside down. And again, he thought that was the easiest for him. This what he thought was the best exercise, that felt like the simplest, easiest to do. He felt like he definitely felt that we were supposed to feel it in his shoulders, which I kind of expected. I wanted to see him kind of do this. But even here, as he was doing it, just looking at the wall chart picture and replicating it, his elbows started kind of flaring up a little bit. But then he kind of was saying the same complaints with the pull-up, that he felt like one side was more dominant than the other. And again, that's just me kind of telling you guys, that's okay. That's going to be expected if you're a beginner, trying this stuff. Eventually, kind of move on. The last one to try was just the basic squat. So here I had him look at the picture. This is kind of what the picture was kind of doing too. He was doing exactly what he saw in the picture. He said, I'm really just feeling this in my thighs. I feel it kind of my calves as well, and that kind of makes sense because you're kind of pointing your toes as you're doing this. And again, I said, we'll adjust you, sit you upright, so you can kind of feel it all over your, not just your thighs and your calves, but definitely your glutes and your hamstrings. So I showed him kind of what he was doing, and then I just kind of coach him through, not only just being careful and mindful about your knees too, that could cause some issues, but walk your feet up a little higher, get nice and low on the sled, as low as you can, so you can kind of open up your knees, open up your hips a little bit, and then pressing through a nice flat foot. This way, you're not just feeling it in your thighs, but you're also feeling it in your hamstrings or underneath your thighs, and then your glutes as well, or your butt as well. So basically messed around with this. We messed around with a number of different things, and you'll see me mess around with some other like band tension to kind of show him that as well. He was pretty much sold at the end of this. I mean, he was a believer where at the beginning he was doing this stuff. He's like, this feels too awkward and weird. It doesn't feel like free weights. I was asking him like, what is his impressions on this? Do you think who would use this machine? He was saying like, well, maybe runners or maybe swimmers or something like that. I don't think anyone who'd want to build muscle would use this. So, which just drives the point home that the Total Gym is just such an underrated piece of equipment. So that's it, you guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I can make it harder, but I mean, I gave you a little bit of tension.
No, this is enough tension.